Hello there, and welcome to the introduction to my Wings over Flanders Fields combat flight simulation campaign that I'm finally able to bring to you. Today's video will give me the opportunity to explain what this campaign is about, so that all this information doesn't detract from the action and awesome story that the actual episodes will be filled with. And by the way, don't mind that stutter that you just saw there in the background. This is a random single player mission that I just loaded into, and it's still loading assets. The footage that you will see in the background today will mostly show scenes from random single player missions, just to give you a few impressions of this really good flight sim. So what are the topics for today's video which we will go over? Let's start with the first one, my vision for the campaign. Those of you who have followed my Silent Hunter campaign know that I like to weave gameplay and storytelling together to help you understand the historical context in which the protagonist of the campaign is trying to survive, and to also fully immerse you in it. You can expect a rich tale about how our protagonist became a pilot, how he ended up on the front lines, and his experiences there. To see how long he can survive in these conditions will be one of my main objectives for the campaign. You know me. I'll play with as much realism as possible, and it will be a dead is dead campaign. If the protagonist dies, the campaign will be over. There actually is no way to create save games. The game is basically played in Iron Man mode all the time. So, what about the campaign's setting? The campaign will be set during the First World War, I mean obviously, and begin in late 1950. Oh, and by the way, I think I've wounded the English pilot there, so that's why he doesn't evade as much anymore. I think he's basically dead. Yeah, okay. So the campaign will be set during the First World War and begin in late 1915, just before the war in the skies really heats up. I hope that this will allow me to record a few episodes before I get killed. I don't expect this to be a very long campaign. Now, I hear those of you who have followed my Silent Hunter campaign, where I basically said the same thing in the first episode, I think. Well, now we are at episode 117. I hear you guys laughing, but I really think that this campaign will only run for a few episodes. The amount of different ways in which you can die in World War II aerial combat is simply staggering, and does not only involve direct enemy action, but also equipment failures, collisions, pilot errors. Actually, you know what, let's try something fun. I'll post a poll on my channel with a few different options for how I might die. And you can go and select which one you think is most likely. You will find the poll in the community section of the channel, so go and look there for it. Now, of course, I had to pick a German pilot for my first campaign in this game, obviously. So our protagonist will be Felix von Berg, a young German pilot, fresh out of pilot training, transferred to a squadron fighting in Flanders. We will begin the campaign flying a two-seater reconnaissance aircraft, but will soon transition to a one-seater Fokker Eindecker. These early aircraft are not as fast or nimble as the ones you see on screen right now. The dogfights will be smaller and not as chaotic as they are later in 1917, when huge squadrons clash. But these aircraft, and this time of the war, do have a certain charm to them. Air combat was still a very novel concept. Just a few months ago, the first aircraft were shot down with a machine gun shooting through the propeller arc with the help of a specialized gear that only allowed the machine gun to fire when the propeller blade was not in the way. Very exciting, for the time very innovative, and top secret invention. But you might ask, what is this game that you're seeing here on the screen? Let me briefly tell you about the sim that I will be using to tell this story, and why I have chosen this one instead of one of its competitors. Wings over Flanders Fields describes itself as the definitive World War I combat flight simulator for PC. And I do concur with that assessment. I wouldn't be surprised if you never heard of it. It's a niche sim in a niche setting, and it's not available on Steam, only via the developer's website overflandersfields.com. But this is a sim for connoisseurs. And in today's day and age, I think I must mention that I'm not being paid by the developers. I did not receive anything for free from the developers. This is really just my personal opinion. I mean, you know me, I'm just as honest as I can be, always in these videos. So, although there are shortcomings in this sim, to which I'm going to come later, the game does feature a staggering amount of content, a very immersive campaign system, and most importantly, and in very stark contrast to its competitors, really damn good AI. That is kind of important if you want to play an engaging, thrilling, even breathtaking single-player campaign that leaves your hands shaking on the controls. Wings over Flanders Fields, Between Heaven and Hell 2, that is the full name of the game, or of the sim, yeah, the title is a mouthful. And I'll be playing it with the 2 expansions, Over the Top and the Last Hurrah. With those 2 expansions, it now includes over 80 flyable aircraft, and it includes basically the whole Western theater of the war. You can fly as an English pilot in England, for example, defending the English home front against Zeppelin raids and against bomber raids at night. There is also the whole Western Front, stretching all the way from the beaches on the North Sea to the Swiss border, with over 500 squadrons belonging to France, Germany, England, America and Belgium, to which you can be assigned and follow their progress from the beginning of 1915 to the end of the war. I should also mention that the sim includes hundreds of historical aces who will be present in their historical squadrons, most of whom will also have their historical aircraft colors. If we should, somehow by a huge miracle, manage to survive long enough to see the formation of the German flying circuses, you will be in for a very colorful treat. But speaking of aircraft colors, there are literally over 7,000 different historical aircraft paint schemes in the game. They really do help to make the war much more personal and make you realize that you are not just shooting down random aircraft or saving generic wingmen, but individuals with their own personalities. You will remember the brightly painted aircraft that outfought you and forced you to run away, and the revenge will be that much sweeter should you get it into your crosshairs on another day. The campaign system tracks the progress of each pilot, and they get better as they gain more experience and score kills, or their morale shatters as their squadron gets decimated by the other side. Wounded pilots can be out of action for a long time. They can also be on leave. Destroyed aircraft and killed pilots need to be replaced, otherwise your squadron might be grounded. Missions are dynamically assigned to squadrons and flights, so that you never know who you might run into and where and when. Indeed, there will be many flights during which I won't see a single enemy, but those will only serve to lull me into a false sense of security, which will bring the terror when I do meet a superior enemy into even greater focus. Historical details such as the reluctance of German pilots to fly over the lines, are also modeled in the game, together with historical weather for every day. And as I said earlier, the AI in this sim is simply superb and puts every other modern flight sim out there to shame. That is also the main reason why I'm not playing this campaign in Rise of Flight or IL-2 Flying Circus, both of which, in my opinion, have uninspired, or, well, compared to this sim, downright awful AI. The AI pilots use the strengths of their aircraft. They are not afraid to get into a scrap when they feel advantaged, but will avoid an engagement or disengage and break off and run when they feel that they don't have a chance. Their maneuvers are in a way human-like, in their cunning and in how unpredictable they can be. Let me show you an example. This is a mission where we are tasked with intercepting a few enemy bombers. I'm starting below them and I'm trying to maneuver into a good position, but as I come closer to this Gotha bomber, I suddenly receive some fire from him, and now my aircraft is damaged. I'm even, the bullet grazed me. I'm not terribly wounded, it's just grazed. But then, all of a sudden, well, there was an escort that I didn't see, and the fight is on. The Albatros dives in on me, and you can now see that my aircraft is actually trailing black smoke. I'm losing oil, which is, it's not too terrible. Oh, look at them again. It's not too terrible on a rotary engine to lose oil, because it's losing oil anyways all the time. But you start to run out of the stuff very quickly, so I know at this point I won't be able to stay in the air for much longer. I managed to get a burst in. He breaks away, changes direction, and tries to outmaneuver me to get out of my sights. He can't do that quite, because my aircraft is much more maneuverable. So he tries with some Immelmann maneuvers to just throw off my aim, keep out of my guns, turn left, turn right, etc. And now he's putting his plane in a spiral basically, rolling out and not allowing me to get guns on, and I barely can follow this dive without ripping my wings off. I might have even damaged them, not sure. But it doesn't matter, I know I won't be in the air for very long. I just try to get a few shots in, and now I'm in a position to do so. I keep the trigger down, I hammer him, but he, once again, he goes into a spin, and this might be it for good. Yeah, he's down. But all of a sudden, I hear something, and look there. Another Albatros just dove past me. So the first guy did his best to escape, and now I have another one here in front of me. And he's flying just away from me, just climbing up. But I hear something, and I saw just something out of the corner of my eye, but yeah, I wasn't sure, but there it is, it's another Albatros. The first one was dragging me for this one. And now that I'm on this one's tail, he has immediately turned around and is trying to get into a position behind me. I anticipated this and switched back to him. And I'm now able to get close enough, get a good burst in. Or at least I think it was a good burst. But once again, he is setting me up for the other guy. He's just dragging me. The other guy is coming in from behind and tries to shoot me down. They are working as a team here. And yeah, you can see I'm just spewing out oil at this point. This engine is not gonna be for long. This Albatros here in front of me, he's faster than I am, especially since my engine is damaged. He's maneuvering a bit to make it difficult for me to hit, but he knows that I can't really follow him. And yeah, my engine is just dying right now, so there's nothing that I can do. I can't bring my nose up far enough, and now I'm dived on by the other one again. The only thing left to do for me is to land at this friendly airfield that I was supposed to protect. And I have to somehow accomplish this without being shot down by these guys. Which can be quite challenging as well. So let's see. Side slip. This little pup here is very floaty. So I really have to keep her in the air for a bit to lose speed. But I managed to touch down and to basically slide in between the hangars here. However, they are not quite done. They are now beginning to strafe the airfield, but yeah, I'm out of the fight. This is it for me. So do you see what I mean? Do you see how good the AI is? How exciting that dogfight was? That is something that I very much doubt I would see in this way, this cooperation in between members of a flight. I very much doubt I would see that in IL-2 Flying Circus or Rise of Flight. Let me show you another example. I am flying a Newport and my flight is entangled with a bunch of German Albatros fighters. And here comes one of them. I'm trying to get on his tail, turning sharply. My Newport should be more maneuverable, but his airplane is faster. However, there seem to be more of us at the moment than there are theirs. He's actually in a dogfight with one of my flight members, and he tried to get on his tail, but now I'm behind him and I'm able to get a few rounds in. It's very difficult to aim with this Newport because the machine gun is actually on top of the wing. You see this maneuver that he does here? He turned left, dove down and immediately turned right. I was simply unable to follow that. And now he's coming up again on my left side. I'm turning that way. You can still hear the other member of my flight shooting. Not sure if he's shooting at this one or if he has picked another target. But this one is doing his best to reverse the situation. However, with me being in the more maneuverable aircraft, he does have a disadvantage. However, but this is really genius what he did now. He put the nose down and dove away, and I can't follow that dive with this aircraft. I would rip my wings off, and he knows that. He's flying to the strengths of his own aircraft, and I lost sight of him. But here is another Albatros. I'm not sure if it's him or one of his buddies. I briefly stole my own plane, but I'm able to recover immediately. And he is now maneuvering onto a position to shoot at me, which he does. Takes a pass at me, doesn't hit, thankfully. And the fight is on. We are over the French side of the lines, so that's why the flak is shooting at him. Yeah, I'm quite maneuverable here. I should be able to get into a position, right? I'm turning with him. You see, he's completely unpredictable. He's always doing something, always trying to make me overshoot, and look at this spiral that he goes in. I can't follow it. There's no way for me to follow it. I would completely rip my wings off. And look at that, he's now below me. He's losing height, he doesn't have too much of that left. But I was unable to get shots in. And now I don't know where he is. There he is. Trying to get onto him again. He's still trying to fight this out, but not for long. He knows that he can't win this. And he puts the nose down, turns the plane over, makes an Immelmann maneuver. And where is he? Gone. Just gone. I'm looking for him. Don't see him. I don't see him. Where is he? And then I briefly spot something else just ahead of me. Another plane down low on the ground, and I wonder if that's a German or not. It's actually not a German, it's one of my guys. I look to the left, I see the flak, so he must be somewhere there. And still unsure where he is, and then I spot him. He used the opportunity, or let's tell it a bit different. He realized that he is not gonna win this fight and that he is in trouble. He dove away, made sure that I'm not directly on his 6, and now he's speeding away back to his own side of the lines. He disengaged because he realized he can't win the fight. And this behavior, once again, I don't think I would see it in IL-2 Flying Circus. The AI realized the situation is hopeless, it's better to fight another day, he's gonna run. And that's it. I can shoot a bit after him, but I'm not gonna hit without really a way to aim these guns. Or this gun, there's only one. I can't really aim this, so yeah, he's gone. And you know, this is just really great. Really great. And this is actually how many fights in real life ended, and many fights do end in this sim as well. There's a scrap, and then those that haven't been shot down immediately at some point dip out and fly away if their aircraft are fast enough. And they're at a disadvantage. All that is left for me to do is to fly away and look at him as he's getting some nice flak while flying back over the lines. When you see how this sim looks, you wouldn't get the idea that it is based on an extensively modified version of the Microsoft Combat Flight Simulator 3 engine. With that does come a bit of baggage, so let's now get to the negative points. Some of you might remember my videos almost 2 years ago. Wow, time really does fly. Showcasing my then newly bought VKB joystick and throttle and my MFG Crosswind rudder pedals. More on those things later. You might remember that I teased a flight sim campaign even back then, but nothing became of it until now. How come? Unfortunately, the sim did not play very nice with AMD GPUs, because AMD at some point removed an old rendering feature from their drivers, which this engine uses. Back then, this made all city ground textures, so basically the textures on the ground inside the very big cities, not the small towns, but very big cities. It made all those textures and rivers appear in a black color. The game was still playable, but especially the black rivers stretching across the map, and particularly in wintertime when there is snow, always looked a bit jarring, not good at all. Sadly, the issue with the AMD drivers is still present in the background. However, the game has received a new rendering technology for the rivers, with the recently released Last Hurrah expansion, which has eliminated that problem regardless if you are using an NVIDIA GPU or an AMD GPU. So that doesn't matter anymore. The cities though, there the issue is still present. However, as I said earlier, the game is still perfectly playable. Just stay away from Paris and London and any other really big cities, of which there aren't that many actually. So as long as you stay away from those really big cities, because they can still look a bit shit, then you should be fine. If on the other hand you have an NVIDIA GPU, then you have nothing to worry about, because NVIDIA did not remove that feature from their drivers. I do hope that the developers will be able to do for the city textures the same thing or a similar thing that they did for the rivers, and eliminate the problem once and for all players, regardless of the GPU used. But honestly, this graphical issue had put me off, and so I waited until I switched over to an NVIDIA GPU a few months ago, and the release of the newest expansion, the Last Hurrah, which was about a month ago, I think. I waited that long to revive my plans for this campaign. Originally, I wanted this campaign to be an experiment on how long a completely clueless new pilot would be able to survive in this World War I setting. Meanwhile, since buying my flight sim hardware, I of course did acquire some experience in using it, mainly while playing X4. But do the skills that I acquired in X4 translate to this game? I don't have to fight gravity in X4, I don't have to fight air resistance, I can't stall a spacecraft. So I think the only skills that I can really take from X4 and put them into this is the feel for my joystick, my throttle and my pedals, my rudder pedals. And that's it. doesn't that kind of put me on a similar level as a pilot out of pilot training? I think in some way it does. Maybe we will still be able to do the experiment if we consider that my experience with X4 and my very limited experience with Wings over Flanders Fields brings me to that level that a fresh pilot out of training would have had. You know what? Place your bets in the comments on how long you think I will survive. Do post it or do estimate it in flight hours or in missions flown or days. Use whatever number you feel like, and maybe at the end we'll have a look back to see who was closest. Now, with the old engine there are a few more slightly negative things, but the issue with the AMD drivers was really the biggest drawback. So the graphics, as you can see, they are pretty good, absolutely serviceable. Actually the sim looks really good. The aircraft are highly detailed, the cockpits, but admittedly IL-2 Flying Circus does have the prettier graphics. The visual reproduction of the battlefields in Flying Circus is also more detailed than in Wings over Flanders Fields. I do believe that in addition to that, Flying Circus has also better modeling of engine management, aircraft damage, maybe even the flight models. So how come that despite this I'd still rather play Wings over Flanders Fields, which by the way does not have any multiplayer, just in case you should wonder or ask in the comments. It does not. It's purely a single player game. But yeah, how come I would rather play this than Flying Circus? The combination of the fully dynamic campaign, the historical missions, the at times breathtaking historical weather, the clouds can look really amazing, like a painting almost, the multitude of historical aircraft piloted by very skilled and unpredictable AI, all of that elevates this sim far above Rise of Flight and Flying Circus when it comes to immersion, in my opinion. I'd actually like to quote a comparison that I read a long time ago, and I'll just quote it by memory, so it's not an exact quote, but it went something like this. If you want to know what it is like to fly a World War I aircraft, play Rise of Flight, or today, Flying Circus. If you want to know how it is like to fly in World War I, you must play Wings over Flanders Fields. This game is more than eye candy. Much more. And this quote really tells you all you need to know about where the different developers have their priorities. The game also does not have a post-mission replay feature, which would make things much easier for me as somebody who records videos, but unfortunately there isn't such a feature. All footage I will have to record in mission. I might do a full review video on Wings over Flanders Fields, just like the one I did for Graviteam Tactics Mius Front. By the way, if you don't know that video of me on Graviteam Tactics Mius Front, I'll link it, do watch it. It's a really good video. It has received a lot of really good feedback from the people who have watched it, and probably more than one person bought the game because of that video. And it's just my honest opinion on that game. Graviteam Tactics Mius Front is amazing. And I do wish I will return to that game. I need more time in my life, damn it. But I will return to Graviteam Tactics Mius Front at some point. It's a regular question in my comments. When will I again play Graviteam Tactics Mius Front? Oh, don't worry, I will. But let's first get this here done. So, first let's get this campaign here done, and maybe then, but we'll see. So what are the rules for this campaign? As mentioned earlier, it will be a Dead is Dead campaign. In order to survive a bit longer, I will rest on those days when my plane is being repaired due to damage. I will take home leave in historically regular intervals. if the skies over the front are calm. I will not fly on very bad weather days unless there is an active battle nearby that requires a high frequency of operations. I will take every opportunity to request leave that I can. I am going to turn off notification messages that otherwise warn me quite early of trouble with the engine, so engine trouble will be always a surprise to me. I will only enable those status messages to check my health when I'm wounded, because you can be just grazed by a bullet, or you can be bleeding out super fast, and you kinda need to know which one it is. As long as I'm flying a two-seater, I will be allowed to use the tactical display. That is a little circle on the lower left side, basically a top-down view that shows nearby contacts and structures. This will stand in for the communication with my observer, basically simulating him pointing out things to me and helping with the navigation. That thing is going to stay turned off as soon as I'm in a one-seater. Now, what game and AI settings will I be using? Let me show you those in the game. But first let's watch together the outcome of this dogfight that you have been seeing in the background, where this Fokker really did everything he could to get away back over his own lines, trying to evade me constantly, but it's no use. And there's his crash. This spot is amazing. I will have to do a French campaign, a French late war campaign at some point. I do like this plane. But okay, let's go into the game and have a look at the settings now. Here you see the main menu of the game. The UI does really have a retro feel to it. But okay, let's go to the workshop. This is where all the settings are. And we'll go through those really quick that are relevant for the campaign. Persistent weather stats will be on. What this does is basically that I get a notification for the weather patterns before every flight, not just when the weather has changed significantly. Wind will be on and it will affect the player. We're using the standard settings for wind and turbulence, changed by the weather. So these numbers here don't actually mean that much. It will be determined by the weather that is going on. We will have rain and snow enabled. We will have, let's see what else is relevant for gameplay. Map waypoints. We will have map waypoints on, but we are going to use a small mod that the developers kindly provided when I requested this feature from them in the forums. So basically you can select here to show the waypoints and your own aircraft on the map, or have both the waypoints and the aircraft gone from the map, so that you only see the map, the in-game map in flight, if you decide to pull it up. I have a mod enabled that removes the position marker for my own plane, and so I can keep this on. I will still see the waypoints, the flight path, but I won't see where I am. So I will be forced to navigate by visual means, to figure out on my own where I am, but I won't have my own position shown on the map. And as I said, I requested that feature from the developers, and I don't know, a few hours later I had a little mod from them that changes this. So really good from them. Thank you very much once again. HUD display. I'm gonna keep this on normal. Hardcore basically just removes the HUD completely, but I have it disabled anyway. The only reason for me to bring up the HUD is to check, for example, how many photographic plates I still have when I'm on a photo reconnaissance mission. Otherwise I'm keeping the HUD off anyway, so that doesn't really matter. What else is there? We will have in-cloud fog off, because I think it looks better like this. Sun glare will be on. Engine noise I have reduced a little bit, because the engines are very loud. They drown out basically everything else, which is super realistic, but it's just too loud for YouTube. Head check is gonna be on with a small movement. The player goggles will be visible, so you will see on the edges of the screen like a shadow for the frame of the goggles. there will be rain and dirt on the goggles visible. If you say, and I require your feedback on this, if you say that the dirt is too visible and maybe YouTube with its stupid compression muddies everything too much, then I will have to reduce this effect of the dirt. But I will require your feedback on that. If I'm injured, I will have splatters on my goggles and there will be a red color of blood. And now we come to the very interesting settings for the gameplay basically and for the AI. Regional air activity will be heavy, so maximum. Forced encounters will be off. What forced encounters does is basically it nudges the flight paths of AI flights more towards your own flight path. And I'm keeping this off, so flight paths will be assigned, or missions will be assigned completely dynamically, and I simply will never know if I will run into enemies or not. There will be many missions where I won't see a single enemy, but that's okay, it's just gonna make things more exciting when they do come. Campaign mission frequency, historical. We will not have the automatic date advance, I want to be able to control that manually. Player statistics will be locked. Campaign will be locked. Transfer requests I currently have on always approved because the story that I'm trying to spin required me to transfer to another squadron. I can change that now to subject to review and we'll leave it at that now. But for the start of the campaign, this was on always approved. Historical mission types will be used. AI enhanced skill levels are off. Now this is a little bit confusing, but the labeling is misleading. What this setting does is when you turn this on, it gives AI a boost to morale, I should say. Right now with this off, the AI will consider their position, they will consider their numbers, they will consider in what aircraft they're in versus in what aircraft the enemy is in before they make the decision, or when they make the decision if they should get into a fight or if they should rather withdraw. So this is actually very realistic. If you turn this on, they get an additional boost to morale and they will almost always go for the fight. So if you want things to be more dynamic and realistic, keep this one off. AI reduced vision. I have this on. Once again, maybe not labeled in the best way. What this does is, if you have this on, then the AI will have blind spots. They will have to visually see you to know that you are there. So for example, if you are behind a cloud, they won't be able to see you with this on. If you approach an AI from their low 6, they won't be able to see you until your rounds suddenly start to hammer into their aircraft. So keep this on. AI damage effect skill. I'm not 100% sure about this one, what it exactly does, but I think it's another one that is slightly mislabeled. I think that by keeping this on, AI will, when the aircraft is damaged during a fight, try to withdraw from the fight sooner. If you keep this off, they will stay in the fight longer, even when their aircraft is shot to bits. So I'm keeping it on for now. I'll see how it goes. Maybe I will switch this to off later on. All aces and historical pilots will be present, not just the top aces. You should know that in this sim, historical aces, they do not die until the day when they died historically. So let's say you have a historic ace in your squadron. That guy is gonna stay alive even if he gets shot down during a mission. He will still return to service and will stay alive until the day when he died in real life. He, when he's shot down, his aircraft is smashed, he's wounded, but he's going to return to service. On the day when he does die historically, that's the day when he will be gone. Same thing for his kills. He will not be awarded kills according to what he does in the missions. He will be awarded kills to when he acquired them historically. We'll see how this goes. It might be a bit weird at times, when you clearly see an ace being shot down and tada, he was just wounded. We'll see how it goes, but I'm gonna keep this on just so that we have a larger number of aces in the sky and a bigger variety of colorful airplanes. Wingman, I'm keeping that off for now. This basically decides if you will always have a wingman or not. I will still have very often somebody flying with me, but this is just something, if you turn this on, then you always have one. Central Powers Fighter Limited Incursion Range. Something that I mentioned briefly earlier. With this on, the Germans will be hesitant to venture over the Allied lines. They will mostly stay on their own side of the lines. That's historical. Historically, the Germans mostly stayed on their own side of the lines. Allied Fighter Limited Incursion Range is off. So these guys are gonna come over the lines, which they did historically. Most of the fights happened over the way over in German territory. Bad weather affects operations, I have this on. So if there is bad weather, then operations will be affected by that. And I will be able to decide if I will cancel all flights on a day when the weather is really bad, or if I want to fly anyway. My flight position is gonna be by rank, so that means I'm gonna be the flight lead if I'm the highest ranking member of the flight. If I'm not, somebody else will lead. Flight altitude is historical, which will involve a lot of climbing to altitude. Target range, historical. So we are not just gonna always pick the closest target to our aerodrome. Claims, normal. In this game, you actually, to get kills credited to you, you have to claim them post-mission. And that's a really big point that will bite me in the ass in the campaign, I can tell you that much already. You have to claim them. If you don't claim them, you are not getting them. Even if you do claim them, there is a really good chance that they are gonna be rejected, your claims, if you don't have a witness, for example. If nobody saw the enemy aircraft go down. If your description of how you shot down the aircraft, because you can actually type out a full text of what happened and where the enemy aircraft went down, etc. And the game will actually look through that text for basically keywords to see if that matches what happened. It's a pretty insane system that's running in the background. You don't realize it when you claim stuff, but there is actually a system in the background that checks the text you input. Oh wow, really amazing. I've set this to normal. If you set it to easy or easiest, you will have a much easier time to, if you set it to easy, all your claims will always be accepted. If you set it to easiest, you bypass the claim system completely. But I'm gonna leave this to normal. It's somehow more fun that way. Promotions will be to normal, so I will have to really earn my pay to get a promotion. Outcomes, realistic. If I die, I die. My main guns, normal. Rear guns, oh no, that's not just my main guns, that's all front firing guns. They are normal. I can have them more accurate or less accurate. I'm gonna leave this at normal. Rear guns, however, I set to less accurate. Because, as you will see in the campaign, observers are deadly with their machine guns, even on this setting. They are really good. Really, really good. Player guns, normal. I can basically increase the damage that my own guns do, but we are not gonna do that. Gun jams will be on. Ground gun accuracy and rate of fire, normal. I'm not invincible. Realistic flight model. No force feedback because I don't have such a joystick. No unlimited fuel and ammo, that's turned off. Auto mixture is turned off, so I have to adjust the mixture myself. Random craft failures are very much on. Very much. Engine reliability is also just on normal, not on high, so we expect engines to die. Recon difficulty is on normal, so if I'm flying reconnaissance missions, I have to be within certain parameters For example, when I take a photograph of the lines. I could set this to easy, make life a bit easier on me, but I'm gonna keep this at normal, because why not? Facility options, airfield grass is turned on, airfield complexity is set to high, and there will be activity at all airfields. I don't know what this setting does, I have to admit. Busy pictures. No clue. If you know what that does, let me know in the comments. I would really love to know actually. I have this to on, but I don't know what it does. No idea. Real withers, that is the new rendering technique for withers that came with the Last Hurrah expansion, what I talked about earlier. So turn this one on. Wither water bias, once again, not quite sure what this does, so I just left it on the default value. And that's it. Those are the settings. So we are really playing as realistic as we can, with the exception of the tactical display that you can see here on the lower left, which is basically just there to help us find our targets for photo reconnaissance and artillery spotting and such. That's its main purpose. As you can see, it's just structures around you are being shown on it, and contacts, and you can actually select if you want just structures or just aircraft or whatever, or everything. I will also limit that display to only 4 kilometers at all times, so as not to have any great advantage from it. You can set this up to, I think, out to 8 kilometers, but we are just going to use 4. And it should serve well to simulate our observer giving us, pointing out targets and other things to us, helping us a bit with the navigation, etc. Now, what else do I have to tell you about before we can go into the campaign? Ah yes, mods. The mods that I'm gonna be using. Currently, there are not many mods that are compatible with the newest expansion, the Last Hurrah. As of right now, I plan to use the earlier mentioned mod, currently provided to me by the developers after I requested the feature on the forums, which removes my own position marker from the in-game map, while retaining the flight plan drawn onto it. This will just force me to navigate on my own. By the way, I should really add that the very small developer team, I think it's just 2 or 3 guys who take care of this game, but they are very receptive to feedback and do interact with their community on the SimHQ forum. During the recording of the first episodes of the campaign, yes, I already did some recording, but I ran into a significant bug. After I had explained the bug and provided log files on the forums, and by email to the developers, don't post log files on the forums, I've learned. But after I did that, a patch fixing the bug was released, I think, 2 days later. That is commendable. So what else am I going to use? I'm going to use Panama Red's stock enhanced populated airfields mods, which adds more props to the airfields and changes some of them to more historic layouts. I will also use the recently updated skin pack by Gerber, which includes even more historical aircraft skins, because why not? And so we come to the final bit of information that you need to know about, because surely it will be asked in the comments of many videos. Which hardware am I using? I'm going to be using my VKB Gladiator NXT Evo joystick. I'm going to be using my VKB STECS Throttle System. And I'm going to be using my MFG Crosswind rudder pedals. When I bought these things, I have actually made videos, you can find them on my channel, I will also link them down below. I've made videos where I went through the unpacking of these things as I received them and assembling them and just getting them to run for the first time. And if you're interested in that, if you're maybe interested in getting these things yourself, those videos might be quite interesting for you, because I show how things need to be assembled, so you will have a smoother process than I did. Yeah. For those of you who are curious about it, I'm still very satisfied with those purchases. I have chosen really well. That hardware is holding up extremely well. I'm very happy with it. For head tracking, I'll be using a webcam with OpenTrack and the neural net AI tracker. I'm sure it doesn't work quite as well as TrackIR would, but it comes at a fraction of the price, which is free if you have a webcam already, and it works reasonably well. So I think that this is really all the information now that you need so that you can fully enjoy the first episode of the campaign, which will be released next week, if something terrible doesn't happen in the meantime. No, it should be released next week. At the moment when I'm recording this, I still have to finish up the editing for that episode and put in some music maybe and stuff like that. But I shouldn't be too far away from completing it. And well, if I'm not getting suddenly ill, or I'm not suddenly super busy during Christmas or before Christmas, then I should be able to have the first episode released next week, so do look forward to that. Before we end today's video, I have a few favors to ask of you. Please hear me out. I think that currently I'm completely unknown in the flight sim community, even more unknown than Wings Over Flanders Fields itself. Please help me to change that. Share this video, and especially the first episode, should you like it of course. Share it with your friends. Post it to forums, to Reddit, Discord, wherever people might be interested in flight sim, World War I aviation, or storytelling with gameplay. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss the next videos, and do all that stuff that YouTube thought of and that tells the YouTube algorithm that you are enjoying what I do. Like the videos, hype them, whatever else they have imagined by now. You would really help me out with that. I'd also like to extend a special thank you to my channel members who support me and who have helped me to get a good balance for the audio for the first episode. With that all said, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have enjoyed all this information and a brief look at Wings Over Flanders Fields, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, have some really good days, and goodbye.